All right, guys. Welcome once again. Today we are attacking chapter 8, which is the last section on system management. So the first and foremost, within this chapter, we're going to be talking about Active Directory. So you should already be asking yourself what an Active Directory is. Just before we get there, the skill set that you're going to get as you complete this sub-chapter is how you join a domain. First of all, what is a domain? How you join a workstation to a domain, how you manage Active Directory objects, how you create user accounts, create object organizational units, delete organizational units, and use group policy. So I think I showed you guys already how to create user accounts and use group policies. First and foremost, what is a policy? We all know that it's a set of rules and regulations or guidelines that establish the way that business is conducted within an organization. It must not be within an organization, it could be within a society. A work group is Microsoft's implementation of a peer-to-peer networking. I think when I asked this question to Mazule about how she would implement an office network whereby there are 5 computers and 1 printer, and what I expected of her to say was like a tree topology or something of that sort, just to make sure that you understand what a peer-to-peer networking is. So basically, Microsoft permits you to connect your computers in a peer-to-peer networking system using work groups. On the other hand, a domain is an administratively defined collection of network resources that share a common directory database and security policies. It is contradicted to work groups by some specific features. This is just to let you know that a domain is that which is implemented in an organization or an administrative environment which is larger than a work group, because I think you can only do peer-to-peer when there are like few people. If there are a lot of people, it will be difficult for you to implement a peer-to-peer network because the mesh is going to get too complicated and you find yourself spending a whole lot of resources on the technologies to connect these devices. It gets just easier to implement a centralized system, e.g. a star topology, by implementing a domain. We're going to talk about what a work group is versus what a domain is. A work group is that implementation where you simply interconnect every single device to every other device that is within that system. You can see here that we have PCA, PCB, and PCC that are all interconnected to each other. PCA here is the one that acts as their server, and PCB and C are just users that are there. But at the same time, PCA also serves as a normal computer workstation. Then they also have a printer which is connected to one computer. And then all these other computers here, they access this printer through this computer. So it is a peer-to-peer connection that forms what we refer to as a work group. Now, what are the advantages of work groups? It is very, very easy to implement. There are no specialized hardwares or softwares that are required. But whenever we have advantages of something, we also have disadvantages. We recently talked about the fact that work groups don't scale well. They don't scale very well. They lack a centralized control, and there is difficulty to back up data. The reason being that every single computer store their information with them, and there is minimal security because it gets harder to implement security on all the array of computers that are found within that organizational unit, preventing general security of the whole system. On the other hand, what is a domain? A domain is a scenario, it's a client server architecture where we will say that in types of network, we have client server networks and we have peer-to-peer networks. So if you have to categorize work groups and domains, work groups fall within the peer-to-peer network type, and the domains fall within the client server architecture. Now, the domain actually is an implementation where all the clients are connected to a central computer that carries out most of the processing and centralizing, administration, and all other, and enforces some security policies. The domain acts as a directory database. It manages the user of a system. It also makes sure that security policies are enforced. It manages printing and file storage. Now, when we talk about directory database, given that all the files are stored on the server, everybody can log in or work from any computer within the organization. All you have to do is log in with the correct credentials, and the server is going to process that login credential and present to you the files that you have the privilege to access. So that makes it easier for you to work from anywhere within the building. Now, with security policies, as we talked about user groups and organizational units, people of particular set or particular milieu can be grouped together and then assign a policy altogether. Let's say like the marketing team versus the development team. I don't think that these people should have the same privileges within the system. Reason why, you will have an organizational unit for the marketing team and for the development team with policies attributed to these persons individually. I don't know if you guys remember when we were talking about, I don't know if you remember when we looked at the local users and user groups, where administrators, where users that had administrator privileges are grouped within a certain pair, and users who don't have administrative privilege were grouped under another pair, with those with backup and other privileges were grouped accordingly. So that is simply how the domain works. Now, one of the advantages of domains is that it is very efficient in the implementation is very efficient. It is highly scalable. It is easier for you to perform a backup because all the file storage is performed in a centralized location. There is increased security provided that you manage all the user access or the user control. The user access control, UAC, is all implemented from a central location, which is definitely easier to manage. On the other hand, it is expensive. It is relatively costly to implement a domain. It is kind of complex and it takes a longer time to set up. Do you guys understand? Or do you have any questions? Do we have any questions so far? Okay, I don't think we do. I don't think we do have any questions so far. Okay. So please, anybody who is coming in now should turn their video and their mic on. Off, sorry. Mute yourselves. All right. So summarily, we just explain what a work group is and what a domain is. Now, what is an Active Directory? An Active Directory is just a kind of an overall overview of what we just talked about, but it's a whole lot a bigger implementation. An Active Directory is a scenario where you can implement a work group, but with a centralized system of controlling access to these devices. With an Active Directory, you have a particular computer that acts as a domain controller. This domain controller holds the policies that make sure that every other computer within the network can access only the resources that are within their level of privilege. So what the domain controller will do is it's going to centrally manage user access control, and then it is also going to like assign some particular how will I say privileges to specific people within the system. Let's say like this first person here is a cashier. This other person here is the manager, and the other person there is, let's just say the field officer. What you can understand is that the cashier is the person that has most of the printing work. So this cashier now is granted authorization by the domain controller to access the printer, because as you can see, the printer is not directly connected to any computer. as well as it was implemented on this other place where we saw a printer directly connected to one computer. The printer is rather a network printer. It is implemented on the network, so the domain controller has access and total control over that printer. Now, with an Active Directory, you can log in a single time. There is centralized management of resources, and it is easy to access all the resources. Now, when implementing domains in an Active Directory, there is also a domain controller this time that has storage at the same time. That domain controller has a domain name. Sometimes it's like compnet.xyz. It is just like basically the domain name of your company. Then the users within that system can access the domain name and the resources that are there using that, you going through the domain controller. So several domain controllers can make up several domain controllers can make up several domain controllers make up a domain. Say like this is a domain controller for the marketing department. This is a domain controller for like the development team. This is the domain controller for what other team do we have? Let's just say auxiliary staff. So we find out ourselves with a situation whereby all the people that are connected here plus those that are connected here form a global network, which makes the domain of that company. Now, the objects that we have under this domain, under domain controllers, under domains are user accounts, we have groups, computers, and printers. So all these devices, all these implementation that we talked about, the users, the groups, computers, and printers, they make up what we call organizational units. So the domain name compnet.xyz is made up of printers, computers, users, and groups. All of these people connect to domain controllers that make sure that they only have access to the resources that are provided to them or which is within their access or level of privilege. You can see like this first section here is groups. The various groups have policies that are that manages them, that governs them. Let's say, for example, we have the group for marketers, we have the group for backup engineers, we have the group for IT support, we have the administrator groups, we have the users groups, and so on and so forth. These users have all level of privileges, and their access is to the other resources like printers, computers, and the other users within the system is managed by the domain controller. That makes up an organizational unit. Now, several organizational units then make up a network. So summarily, we've talked about an Active Directory and the key components of an Active Directory, which are persons or users, groups, computers, and printers. Now, we're moving on to talk about group policies. Within group policies, we look at what registry settings are, what scripts are, templates, set up software, and adjust configurations. Immediately after this, we are going to skip real quick to actually show you how all of these stuffs are really implemented. So now, link group policy objects. When we talk about linking group policy objects, it's like taking a local group and then linking it to like a domain or with a user or computer, and then containing objects within an organizational unit. The group policy editor is a software within Windows that permits you to manage softwares, startup and shutdown scripts, password restrictions, network communication, security settings, and registry settings. That's for computer configurations. And you also have user configuration policies like software, login or logout scripts, user settings, current user registry settings. All of this should be a lot of information for you to process, but do not worry. I'm opening it right now to show you how all of this is done. So I'm just going to open up group policy. On your Windows, to open up group policy, all you do is on the search bar, you type group policy, and you're going to see edit group policy that shows up for people on Windows 11. And those on Windows 10, I think you should see something similar but it should be saying group policy leading to the control panel. While we wait for that information to come up, we're going to summarily discuss the things that we've looked at in this place. We've talked about group policies, group policy structures, and group policy settings. So as of group policy settings, we're going to make sure that we also look at it within this demonstration. So I'm just going to skip real quick and show you the group policies. Yes, the group policies, new share screen. Can you guys see this? Can you guys see this new screen that is being shared right now? So this is what the local group policy editor looks like. We have computer configurations and we have user configurations, as we also. Under computer configurations, we have software, window settings, and administrative templates. Let us open up the software settings. Right in the software settings, we have access to things like, it's loading. Sorry, there's an issue with the processing. Okay, let's just keep to the Windows settings, right? So we have the possibility to manage scripts, as we just talked about, startup and shutdown scripts. This contains computer startup scripts, like things that run when the computer turns on. If you need some specific things to work on your computer, remember that we talked about scripts as some particular implementation of tasks or program that the computer is supposed to do, or instruction that the computer is supposed to do, by writing some specific programming languages. I think we looked at Python, Shell, Bash, and the PowerShell, and other ones. So within scripts, you edit the policies or the things that operate when you start up or shut down your computer. Deployed printers. What do you do in deployed printers? You simply organize or manage which user accesses which printer. There are other security settings that you can also manage within the system, like account policies, how you want passwords to be. Like let's look at the password policy. You come here to enforce password history. If I click on this option here, it is going to make how will I say? It is going to keep track. It's going to keep track of the passwords that have been used on this PC, and then make sure that whenever someone is recreating a password, they should not use a password that was already used. So I could put this right up here at 10. So for the next 10 passwords that I'll be creating on this computer, all these passwords can never be the same. I cannot use a password that I have already used before. So let me just close this and then open it all again so that you guys can follow up with me. I'll open up, when I open local group policy, I am faced with this interface. I expand computer configuration. I expand Windows settings. I don't know if you guys are seeing this properly. So let me just expand. I expand Windows settings. Then I go to security settings. Under security settings, I have access to a whole lot of configurations. But what I'm looking for is the account policy. I could also open account lockout policy, but what I want us to do right now is password policy. This is to configure certain aspects of a password. Like, I don't know if you guys have been on these platforms where when you need to create your password, they will tell you like the password is supposed to be of at least 8 characters. It must have a capital, it must have a small letter, it must have a sign, a number, all those stuff. Those are password policies, all right? So what we use this setting in Windows to do is to configure something that is a bit of that sort. So when we say a maximum password age, this means the longest time that you can stay with a singular password. There are some roles within a company that require you to constantly change your password because you have access to sensitive or critical company data. You should not have a password that can be lost anytime and somebody from the outside could easily intrude and get into the system. So if you come here, if you double click this, we could change the password, the length of the password. So right now you can see that the password it will expire in 30 days. Any password I have on my PC right now will expire in 30 days from now. Let's look at the explanation here. This explanation says maximum password age. This security setting determines the period of time in days that a password can be used before the system requires the user to change it. You can set passwords to expire after a number of days between 1 and 999, or you can specify that passwords never expire by the number of days, by setting the number of days to 0. So that is just some of the things that you need to know about password policies. There is also minimum password age, which means like the shortest time that the password could live. From the explanation, it determines the number of time, the period of time in days that the password must be used before the user can change it. So you must use a password for at least 30 days before you change it. Minimum password length. This is the one in characters. Some platforms you will see minimum 8, minimum 16, depending on the level of security. Minimum and maximum password length. Password must meet complexity requirements. If I enable this, I will be able to, the complexity requirements that we just talked about are things like the length, the characters that are inside capital, small letter, signs, numbers, and more. But I'm just going to disable it because we don't need that for now. There is also relaxed maximum password lengths, and there are a lot more other features that can be implemented on this thing. There are account lockout duration. Let's say someone tries to log in on your computer and then fails the password 3 times. The person will be locked out completely from the system. You can set the number of time, you can set how many times the person should try. So you see, like there's I think it's with SIM cards. If you set up a pin on the SIM card and then you try to put the pin 5 times and you fail, your SIM card will be blocked. Now, this is just another implementation of that kind of a system. When you set this up, it makes sure that any person cannot just try to type in some random password on your computer in an attempt to guess the right one and have access to your data. What you simply do is you can set up the account locker to like 3. If someone misses your password 3 times, you're going to be locked out of the system and you have to wait for some particular amount of time. What is that amount of time? That amount of time is that what you define here. You can say the person should wait for 30 minutes, 23 minutes, 24, 25, any amount of minutes that you want until it is available for the person to type in the password again. This here is that you can allow the administration account, you can log in with the administrator account to bypass the account lockout. You should disable the account lockout after a couple amount of minutes. Is there for you to, you can go there for your convenience and read a lot more about all of this. Please, you guys will have the habit to go back to these things that we cover and then try to like look at them again. And if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask us. We also have local policies, audit user right assignment, security policies, and a lot more. With user right assignments, there are just like the various things that people within the system can do. Let's say like this feature, debug program that only administrators can do. Now, only administrators can do this for now, but we could as well add a group. We could add a group or user to this particular feature. Let's say we want the normal users of this computer to, access let me say who is a user on this PC. Let me just check. Okay, I think I can add. No, it's not that. All right, but nevertheless you can add a user or you could add a group. Let's say backup. Okay, now you can choose which group or which user can have access to this particular features on your computer. Right here we have deny access to the computer, to this computer from the network. Only guests. So for every person who logs in as a guest, you will be unable to get access to the computer network, to the network from that particular computer. So all of the other policies are there and they're left for you to explore. That being said, we are going to proceed with the next thing that we get to see on this slide. Do you guys have any questions? Any questions? No one has a question? All right. I guess we're going to continue then. Now we move to users and groups. Can you guys see the screen that is being shared at the moment?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're now looking at users and groups. The groups that we just talked about that you could add to some specific features within Windows. Those groups are the things and the user the things that we're going to look at this moment. So within this section, you're going to learn how you can manage local users and groups, how you can authenticate users. You can authenticate using online accounts, how you can manage users and groups, manage user access, control, settings. First things first, what is a user account and what is a group? A user account is an account that identifies a specific user. You can assign rights and permissions to a user's account. So like a person has rights and duties, you can assign it those rights and permissions to a user account within the computer. So I mean, as we physical persons have rights and permissions, things that we can do, things that we cannot do, you assign them to user's account. But when you use a group is a collection of user accounts to which you can use to assign rights and permissions to multiple users. So that means if we have like a company with 1,000 employees and we want to assign rights to every single user, you're not going to go for every one user, you assign them a role. You assign them rights and permissions for every single user until you reach number 1,000. What you can do is you can simply figure out the major groups within that company. Remember, we talked about marketing department, we talked about backup engineers, we talk about security experts, we talk about administrators, we talk of normal users, guest accounts, and so on and so forth. You can assign these people groups like that, and then now set policies that is going to apply to that group, to those groups. So much so that whenever a new person comes to join in the company, you just add that person to a group, and then all the policies that are abided to that group is going to also be implemented on that person. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ask a question. Ask a question about. I think you should have a question.
No, sir. I don't have any question.
All right. Should I ask my own question now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Within if a user comes in, and the user and then all that the person needs to do is like to be able to create documents, browse the internet, do some search, copy files, and things like that. Which group are we going to assign that person to? Because you don't understand that for every single user, you have to give them all the things that they can do. You have to apply all with using user policy. You have to tell them all the things that they have access to. But then when you're using group, you can create a particular group for them and then assign all those policies to that group. So much so that whenever you're adding one user, all the only task that you have as an IT technician is to just put that person within that group. So which group would you put that person?
The user group.
Okay, that's great. Now, there are two types of authentication when you are authenticating your users. One, there is local authentication, which means the database of username and password is stored within every single computer. So whenever you sign in as MS Smith, for instance, with the password, this user comes here, opens any computer, signs in. Every computer, because they're connected to that network within the company, all of them have access to the password database. So you can open up any user account on any computer. Another type of authentication is Microsoft account authentication. When you bring in your username, let's say mssmith@msn.com, when you log in like that, that computer forwards your login details to the cloud, to the Microsoft cloud, and then your Microsoft is going to transmit your login information back to the computer and then make you log in. There's also domain authentication, whereby when you log in with your details, the usernames and pass is the username that you put inside will be forwarded to the domain controller. I don't know if you guys remember the domain controller that we talked about inside Active Directory. The domain controller is going to figure out if this user is found within the system, and then will redirect you. We then send them back a confirmation token to that computer and tell the computer to give access to that user, but just some specific resources or to the things that that user can use with respect to their level of privilege. Let's say this account is an administrator account. The thing that will be displayed here will be different from another person who comes to log in, but is logging in with a user account. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. With domain authentication, there's a centralized authentication system. The resource access is also centralized. There is a home folder and a folder redirection. Now, let's look at the default user accounts that we get on a PC. So without having to do any extra thing, there are some accounts that are default on your PC. As soon as you open the PC up, as soon as you install the operating system, 3 main accounts are created by default. We have an administrator account, a standard user account or user account, and a guest account. Now, what can a standard user do? A standard user can browse the internet, they can run softwares, they can access resources, but they cannot change settings. An administrator account, who are they and what can they do? They can add or remove hardware, they can install or uninstall software, they can add or delete users. Now, guess what? The guest account is the most limited one because they have limited access to everything, and this account is disabled by default. This is mostly the account that you can access even without a password or a basic password like admin or guest or 1234 can be set so that anybody can access the most basic things in that computer. Earlier today, I went to a company where I was implementing a domain on the computers within that office space. So this is I'm talking to you now from experience. There is I had to set up the cashier account, the cashier to be a regular user, because all that the cashier does is to like browse the internet, run softwares, and access resources within the company network. But there is an administrator who is responsible for installing programs. Say like the Microsoft Office program, is the administrator that does that. So I made sure to install the applications and other stuff that were needed to be put into the system using the administrator account. Then I created the cashier as a standard user and then restricted their access. But then when I got into the standard user account, I forgot where I was, and I was trying to implement a system change. I was trying to edit one local policy to apply on the administrator account. Like the policy I wanted to implement was to make sure that whenever any of these users comes to log in the next time after me, because I, as a technician, when I've worked on the system, the password and the stuff that I've put there, I don't want them to use the same. I want them to put something of their own. I don't need to know it, because if any other person within the system knows your password, it is not right. It is not all right. Even if it's the administrator, that's not supposed to know your password. So I basically set up a default password. I gave them those passwords so much so that next time they try to use that system, they will be automatically asked to create a new password. If you guys are interested, I can show you how to do that. by setting up an account in such a way that even your user account, that the next time you come in and try to log into that system, you'll be asked to create a new password automatically. So that's what I did. And within, I was trying to implement that from the user account, forgetting that I was in the user account. I wanted to implement that on both the administrative and the user account, but it kept on throwing an error until when I realized that I was in the user account. So I had to sign out and go and implement these system changes from the administrator account. So that's just an example of the scenario that I experienced earlier today. So the default groups that come alongside, we talked about the default user accounts that come, administrative, local user or standard user, and the guest accounts. The default groups that come are administrative groups. They have full admin permissions and should be secured. The user group that are restricted need admin for changes, and typical user. When you want to change something, there's something that I needed to confirm. Oh, yeah, I needed to install something in the user account from the user's interface, but it asked me to put in the administrator's password. So the admin, as a user within a company, you cannot install software without the admin being concerned. So the admin password is supposed to be typed in every time you need to install or uninstall something. That is simply user groups and account policies within the Windows computer. Windows is an operating system that has a vast variety, a vast range of usability. It has a lot of features that you should not underestimate. I think you're actually using not even up to 10% of Windows capacities as you use Windows on daily basis. All you can mostly do is play games, watch movies, and maybe for those of you who are into development, write codes, and basically that's just it. Browse the internet. But Windows has a lot more of other features that I don't even think that you guys know about. So another group that we're talking about is a power user groups. So they have limited admin access, and they are like a legacy group. So like a group that is always there. They have some roles, some admin roles, but not all of them. So the Active Directory group that we have are distribution groups and security groups. Now, summarily, we have talked here about user accounts, authentication, groups, and login options. And groups, sorry. We will be moving next to login options, but simply before that, I'm going to take us back again to user user and group accounts, sorry. Users and groups. So let me just do that again real quick. We'll start from here. Let me just type use computer management. If you want to access user account, let me just share my whole screen to make sure that you guys can see everything that I'm doing from the first step. Okay. All right, guys. I don't know if you guys can see my whole screen, but yeah. So first things first, I click on Windows set on the Windows key. The setting bar comes up. I'll search for computer management. When I see computer management right here, I click it and I open. Computer management is going to come up. When it comes up, I'm going to be prompted. I will be prompted with the option to choose which computer management feature that I want to use. Do I want disk partitioning, user access control, and a lot more of other stuff. So I will just go real quick to computer management. You can see it right here. Now, okay, group policy automation. All right. So you can see that there are it is basically subdivided into three main sections. The system, the computer management, right? Windows has this file structure that categorizes all their tools and resources within within bigger modules. Let's say within system tools, we have access to the task scheduler. It's a program that permits you to set up a specific time that a specific task is going to be implemented. Event viewer, it is a login system that keeps tracks of everything that happens within your Windows computer, every single event. Shared folders are folders that are implemented over the network where other users from different computers could access resources that are being stored in. The local users and groups is what we are looking for, but we should now look first at performance, which is a system, which the folder that opens up the various software that permit us to monitor Windows usage. Device manager, I think, is simply the interface that permits us to control all the hardware that is installed on our computer. There are a lot more: storage, disk management, services and applications, but we are not interested by all of those. I think we know of services. We opened services the other day and we talked about all the services that run on Windows. What interests us here today is local users and groups. Let's start with users. When you click on users, you can see some user accounts that are active. There is one, my user. This is my user account. This is my administrator account. And you guys can see that the guest account is deactivated by default. It is not active. If you go to properties of the guest account, what is it? Can you see that the account is disabled? Can you guys see that the account is disabled by default?
Yes, sir.
I can, if I unclick this, if I untick this, the account will come back active. This account will be active on my PC. Somebody is going to be able to log in on my computer without a password, but I want to make sure that it is still disabled. But other things that you can do are like, they say here that the guest password, let me not actually work from the guest account. Let me go to my user account. If I double click on my user account, you can see the thing that I implement here. If I disable this, my user account will be disabled. Like when I try to log in on this computer again, the user account with this name is not going to be available anymore. But right now, I don't know why I should disable my account, so it stays off, it stays on for now. Now, I could also say that my password never expires. My password never expires means that I can basically use one password for my whole lifetime, so long as I have this computer. But another thing that I could as well do here is say that next time I try logging in on this computer, Windows will ask me to change my password. You remember what I was talking about, right? Masule, do you remember what I was trying to talk about?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that when you set up a means where if a user tries to log in next time, let's say I'm working on this administrator account, or let's say I'm working for a company, the company hired me to set up their domain and make sure that every user has access just to the right amount of to the right information. Now, this is my administrator account right here. Let's say I'm done configuring the administrator account. I've already said what the administrator has access to. So I simply come back here and then I say that I could disable the administrator account by default, but I want to leave it there. And I could say the password will never expire, but I don't want that. You see, if I say the password never expires, this field that says user must change password as next logon is disabled and account is locked out is also disabled. But when I turn it back off, that option comes back on. Now, if you tick this box, let's say I know the password to this administrator account. It's just that I cannot log out of this computer while Zoom is running, and you guys cannot see my lock screen unless I'm using an external camera. But I don't have that. I don't have access to that right now. I believe we're going to have the opportunity to work with that some other time. So if I take this option right here, I'm going to be able to make sure that whenever the administrator of this account is logging in next time, even if they already have a password, they'll be forced to change that password. You can read it right clearly here. You can read it clearly here. It says user must change password at next logon. But I don't want it to be that way. So basically, Those are some of the things that you can do within the user account. And as you can see, if I hover on top of this guest account, let me just click it, it's deactivated. There are other accounts within this PC. What does this person do? They say what's the username here? WDAG utility account. All of you have this account. Windows Defender active, whatever. What does that mean? I'll find out and get back to you guys. This user here is a user account that is managed and used by the system for Windows Defender application guard scenarios. Okay, Windows Defender application guard. All right, that's the meaning of it. Windows Defender application guard. So this user account is managed by Windows Defender, the antivirus that is in Windows by default. So there's also a default account. It's a default user account that is managed by the system. The guest account, built-in account for guest access to the computer or the domain. Administrator account, built-in account for administering the computer or domain. So basically, that's it for user accounts. Now let's go to groups. The various groups that we have are, let me expand this. We have access control assistant operators. What are their roles? What do these people do? Okay. Okay. What access control assistant operators do is that they are members of this group can remotely query authorization attributes and permission for resources on this computer. That means remotely. Administrator accounts. We just talked about administrator accounts, and their accounts that have complete and unrestricted access to the computer and domain. We have backup operators. These are people who solely operate. Backup operators can override security restrictions for the sole purpose of backing up or restoring files. So within large organizations, there are some people whose job title or job requirement is for them to be backup operators. I don't know if you guys understand. This means that every day when people finish work, these people come and then their only job is to back up every computer every single day. I'm just going to choose some of the accounts, some of the groups that you guys can be versed with. Just remember that if I double click on any group here, you're going to see the members of that group. Currently, the administrator account and my user account is part of the administrator group. I made it that way. I could also remove myself from the administrator group. I would not have admin access, but I need the admin access because I don't want to be swapping. I don't want to be switching accounts all the time just to confirm particular operations. So that's why I've given myself administrator access. So let me go to event log accounts. We looked at events viewers. Event viewer is the person who this event viewer here is that it's reading the data. Basically, all the events that are here can be read only by the event viewer and the administrator. If this account that I'm using right now do not have administrator access, I will not be able to get here to show you all of this stuff that I'm showing. So the event log readers are the people who are going to have access to be reading all of this. We have other users, and at the end of the list, we have users. Users are prevented from making accidental or intentional system-wide changes and can run most applications. So you're just authorized to run mostly applications, but not to write any application onto the system. I believe that makes sense to you guys. We are done with users and groups. Any questions, guys? Do we have any questions?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yes, I just wanted to know if the administrator accounts are accounts like the normal user account, like the present normal user account I'm working in, but the different, like you can switch from this present user account to the administrator.
Okay. Do you want me to switch from my user account to my administrator account? I don't
I don't
understand
know.
the nature of your question. See, I don't know. Let me try. Let me see if I've understood what you're saying. You want to know if the user account that you're using right now is the administrator account, or
If the administrator account is on another place, like for example,
Sorry.
the computer, you can go to the
are you on your,
normal Windows bar and then try
are you connected from your PC?
water.
All right, just go ahead. Go ahead and explain what you're explaining.
Okay, so I wanted to know if the administrator account is a different account on its own, like the present user account I'm with now.
Your user account might just be a user account, but it is part of the administrative group, which makes you to have administrative privileges. You could have another account which is independent. You can have as many as you want, but that the accounts will have just the access to those privileges. They should belong to the administrator group. Administrator account is not actually, it's just an account that has
Okay.
administrative privileges.
Oh,
Do you understand?
Alright.
Yes, it's just an
Yes.
account. So you can create 10 accounts, and all those 10 accounts, you know how to create accounts on your PC, right? Just go to users and groups. You go to user, you right click new account. I didn't even show you guys that, but I've closed it already. So I'll just type computer management again. I'll open up computer management again. Those who have computers beside, you can follow up with me. You go to computer. George, do you have a computer beside you?
Josh is sleeping.
Josh.
Yes, I have a computer beside me. Who's I was speaking?
Okay. Okay. You can open up computer management on your PC. Open computer management. All of you do that. Computer management first. Oh, can you see you're not seeing my screen? Okay, computer management. After computer management, you click on local users and groups. Are we all there?
Yes.
Click on
Mazule and George, are we there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay.
yes.
Have you expanded local users and groups? Expand that drop down. You will see users and groups. Let's click and open users. What do you see, Mazule, when you expand users? How many accounts do you see?
5 accounts.
Call their name. Call them out, please.
The administrator, the default guest, Mazuli, and the WDAG account.
All right. So actually, we created just 1 account on this computer, but we are having 5. How come? That's because Windows manages all the other accounts. The administrator account has access to everything, which means that the administrator is a user, the administrator is a backup operator, the administrator is everything. Do you understand, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Then you as a user, you choose what you want. You choose, or you as a user, you choose what. If the administrator decides that you as a user can join the administrator group, the user now, as like the way I did here, I will now have access to all the resources that an administrator has. You can see that if you click on the user, look, if I click on the user, say right now, I right click and I take properties. I go to the next tab, which is member of. Oh, sorry, you cannot see the screen. Let me share the whole screen. If I right click on users, this place comes up. I could set the password, like set a totally new password for myself, but that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is go to the properties of that user. When I open up the properties of that user account, I go to the next tab, which says member of. When I open up member of, you're going to see all the groups that that user belongs to. I think Mazule, you never have to switch accounts in order to, wait, when you look at your administrator account, do you see a little arrow which is pointing down?
Yes, sir.
Which means that that account is disabled. It means that that account is disabled. By default, right? By default, the account is disabled. When you create yourself a user account for the first time, that account is given administrator privileges. You can then remove it some other time. So I'm part of this user, Sungin Ellis Brown here has access to the following groups. It belongs to the following groups: administrator, backup operators, and users. The administrative account here has access, belongs to the following groups: member of, administrators. Administrators have access to every single thing. I don't know if you guys understand. So you have 5 accounts on your computers by you have five accounts if you created yourself one. So your account plus the other accounts, all of them make up 5. So Mazule, I don't know if I've answered your question or you need to restructure it so that we understand again better.
No, sir,
Mazule?
it's okay.
Okay, that's nice. So do we have any question? Do we any other person with a question? Oh, the reason why I opened this place was because I wanted to show you how you can create a new user. I simply have to right click. I see when you right click on the white space, you see this option that comes up. The first one says new user. I will click on the new user and I have to put the user's name. Let's say I'll write Mariama, and the full name is Mariam Jingi. The description: this is the user account for the new backup operator. This means which group do I want her to belong to, guys? Which group do I want her to belong, this user account to belong to?
The
backup operators. So I'm just going to set her a new password. I'll just put 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. You can see that I've created her a password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, but I've ticked this box here which says user must change password at next logon. So when she will use this password and type in for the first time, she'll be forced to change the password. For those of you whom I assisted in getting their Lapsim platform, their Lapsim account, you remember that I gave you first of all a default password, right? A password which you could use, but you were forced to change the password immediately, not so?
Yes, sir.
Good. So you could also disable this account, or you can disable the account for now. So I can just create this account but leave it here as a disabled account. No, let's just, for testing purposes, let's just create her account. You can see now that create. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the account that was just created. Now let's look at the properties and the member of group. We can see that by default we created a new user, so she belongs to the user group. Now let's go. We can, from here, we could add the group. We could add her to another group by simply starting to type backup and then checking. Let me just leave that. Let me leave that. I'll just come back here and I'll go to groups, and then I go to backup operators. When I go to backup operators, you see here that I can add users. So I'll start typing. Mariama. Voila. You can see that there's a user that exists. A user exists with the name Mariama. So we can now say, okay, and then Mariama is added to the backup operator groups. We do apply, and then okay. If we now go back to the user group, and then we click on Mariama, right click, and then look for properties. Sorry, who is making all of that noise? If we now go to the user accounts, we click on the user Mariama, we now right click and take properties. We can now see that under the member of tab, she now belongs to the backup operator groups as well. But now, what if you want to remove her the user privileges? We simply click on the user and we take remove and then apply. So all that Mariama can do on this computer right now is to perform backups. That's all that she can do. I don't know if you guys have followed me all through. So I've deleted the account. That should be it. I want to believe that you guys have followed what I was describing.
No, sir, please, I missed the part where you were putting the backup operators. I didn't see why you press to put it in.
Okay, no problem. So once again, to go to the user, to manage user account, I will simply press the Windows key or open up the search bar. I type computer management. I will open up computer management. When that is open, let me share the screen. When I've opened, let me share the whole screen instead. Right. When I've opened up computer management, I want to create a new user. Let me just make sure that everybody is following up this time around. Is everyone following up?
Yes, sir.
Josh, are you following up? George, are you following?
Yes, I'm following up.
Mazule, are you following up too? Mariama, are you following up? Mariama, are you there? Mariama seems to not be present. That's fine. So to open up the local groups and local users and groups, we first of all start by opening computer management. Then we expand the local users and groups folder. Now we're going to click on users, and then we right click on an empty space and click on create a new user. I'm just going to call this person Mazule. The username is Mazule and the full name is Mazule. So the description is, this is the new IT technician that joined the tier 2 support team. So you're an administrator. I'll just create you another password again. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. I could set 1 2. That's not a password. I'm just putting it for testing purposes. So now when I've set the password, I will tell you that your username is Mazule. You guys remember that authentication, the cloud authentication or the domain authentication, where you log in and these details are being stored in the server. So you can log in from basically any computer within the office space. And then it's just going to present to you the resources that you need to operate on your PC. So when you click this box that says user must change password and next log on, and we create a user. If you look right here now, we have now the user called Mazule Toso. Now we want to add her to the administrator group. If you right click and then look at properties, or we simply double click on her, we can look at member of. By default, she's part of the user group. Now we want to add her to the administrator group. Nabila, it's just the same process as the backup operator. So we're just going to go back under the local users and groups folder. We select groups and then double click on administrators, or we right click and then take properties. Now we can now see add. When we click on add, all you have to do is search for the username of the person that you want to add to the administrator group. If we do search, yes, we found something. Let's say I search for something that does not exist. Let's say I look for George. If I check George, you see, it shows me, every time it shows me this option is because the name was not found. The heading of this window says name not found. So if Mazule is a user, so I'll type Mazule and then I check the name. It found the user. So I simply click on OK. Now Mazule is part of the administrator group. I'll just apply this and then take OK. Now we go back to the users and then click on Mazule, double click or right click and take properties. Then if you now go to member of, you will now see that she's now part of the users and the administrators group. It does not make any sense for a person to be part of a user and administrator group, because as an administrator, you have all the user privileges and every other privileges. So we could simply click on the user here and remove, apply that and take OK. So Mazule now is only part of the administrator group. Have you understood, Nabila?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
I said yes, I've understood.
All right. So I guess we can continue then. We are going to go very fast with the next thing that we have to do because we are running way behind time. So the next things that we have to do here are like login options. So just before we continue, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so when you have created the user account, does it mean if I switch off the computer and then try to bring it back on, will I see the different accounts on which to choose?
Yes, all the user account will be displayed there. You choose which one you want to log in with. Just make sure that it is not disabled. Make sure it is not disabled, all right?
Okay, sir.
Yes. You can create all the user accounts with different privileges on your computer. Different privileges.
All right.
Yes. You can, I think you have the time to go through that again and you'll be able to analyze. You can create user accounts for various things on your computer, and then just make sure that you have one administrative account, which is the most secured one, the most secured account. Because even if viruses attack your user account, they cannot change anything in your PC because the user account does not have administrative privileges, right?
Yes, sir.
Viruses need administrative privileges to run, and before they run, they will need the administrative password. Because they don't have access to the administrative password, they're not going to cause extensive damage on your PC. That being said, we continue to the next section. Any other question from any other person? Any other question from any other person? I'm going to assume we don't. So now we are looking at login options. This is just slide 43 of 153 slides. I don't know what magic will do to cover it all, because basically our time is off. Our time is up. We just left with like 2 minutes. Our time is done. I don't know how we manage this, guys. Are you guys going to be able to look at this thing, or should we continue from there on the weekend? The more we extend these things like that, we're not going to finish in the schedule. We're intending for you guys to finish and take the TESOL PC Pro exam by mid-January. Then anybody can then look forward to scheduling how they will take their CompTIA A+ exam. But as of the schedule, which is mid-January, but when we skip if we send these things like that, we're going to find ourselves meeting February if we don't take care. So I just really wonder we should be on schedule. This program is meant for 3 months. It should be 3 months. So how are we going to organize this? Because there's not more magic. There's no magic. We're on slide 43 and there are 153 slides in this chapter. How do we manage that when our time is basically over? Should we send the rest to Friday, or we just like look for other days within the week to catch up?
Yeah, we could catch up another day. We could have 3 week at least, or 4 even.
I beg your pardon. Can you please say that again?
We could increase the number of days.
Okay, we should.
We could have classes like 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay. Who is in for that option? Like, what do you guys think? 3 to 4 times a week. 3 to 4 times a week. That makes a lot of sense. We will be on time. What do you think? Nobody saying anything? Are you guys not for that idea?
I mean, for us to catch up.
Yeah, Mazule, what do you think? We need to catch up.
Yeah, okay.
All right. After the class, we're going to discuss the days. We need like 2 extra sessions to be able to catch up. We are way behind. For those of you who have not had access to your user accounts, please make sure to get back to me to make sure that I give you authorizations I help you to reconfigure your account so that you can continue using the platform. Just a reminder before we continue, guys, the second installment is already due. This morning, you all are expected to already start doing something about your second installments. Thank you. So we're just going to continue for like 10 extra minutes within this session. Hopefully, we shall have covered the logon session. Then we'll call this session a day. Within login options simply, sorry, please mute yourself. I want to speak real quick. Please mute yourself. Thank you. When we talk about login options, this refers to basically all the methods that we can use to authenticate ourselves before we get access to a Windows operating system. Some of the means of authentication that we have are facial recognition, fingerprint recognition, PIN, security key, password, and picture password. And among all of these, I believe that all of us must have used at least 1 or 2 of these authentication methods. Some people have even used all of them. So the first one here is the fingerprint sign-in option, right? The next is the facial recognition. The fingerprint sign-in option is basically use a scanner to get the prints, the prints that are found, the patterns, to get the patterns that are found on a particular person's finger, which is something that is unique to every individual, to give you access to your computer. Next is facial recognition. Based on someone's faces, someone's morphology, or the person's architecture, let me just stick with morphology. Based on your facial morphology, the camera is able to determine which person is which, and then give all the proper authorization to proper access to a computer system. Next, the next login option that we do have here is the PIN login. You're simply required to type in a whole bunch of digits from ranging from 0 to 9, and then with a minimum of 4 digits. So the other one that we have here is the fingerprint scanner, the fingerprint login, which is the same as what we looked at in the first interface. There is digital fingerprint scanner, analog fingerprint scanners. So there is also the security key, which is like an external drive which only the real owner of a computer is going to have. So whenever you plug that external drive, like a flash drive or a hard disk to the computer knows that it's you, and then it gives you access to the computer. So fingerprint recognition, PIN, and other stuff are being managed by a chip inside your computer that is called the TPM chip. Now, for those of you who have been trying to move to Windows 11 but have been unable to because Windows 11 has a lot of requirements, one of those requirements is that your computer should have the TPM chip. The TPM chip is that chip that manages these securities in your system, like fingerprint, PIN, and all these recent versions of authentication. So if your system has the TPM chip, it means that you can host all these authentication methods, which is the requirement for Windows 11. But there are tricks that people have implemented out there to get Windows 11 on their PC. I don't want to call names. I don't have a TPM chip, but I have Windows 11. You can guess what happened. So all the login methods that we have here, if you try a login method, you fail, your computer is going to get blocked. So there is a security method in Windows which is called BitLocker that simply encrypts all your drives. And when your drives are being encrypted, it means that you will need a particular password to be able to access the data that is within the Windows drive. That means that even if you remove the hard drive and go and connect it somewhere else, you will always need a particular PIN to access the data that is inside. Otherwise, the drive is useless. You can also encrypt your external drives like your flash drive and other types of storage, external storage devices. Personally, I have had a flash drive with me which has been encrypted with a BitLocker, which means that the data inside, even if the key gets stolen, I don't bother about the data that is inside because I know it will be useless to whosoever gets it. Other alternative signing options are picture password and the security key. We talked about the security key, which you plug into your system to like get access by the system recognizing that key. The picture password is like that particular password where you will like put a picture and then you select one image and then you select one particular thing within that image, which is what is going to authenticate you. See, like this image of buttons. I could select this button here. I don't know if you guys are seeing my screen. Okay. I could select this button here to make it the password for this computer. If somebody comes and tries to log in and then clicks on any other button, the computer locks out. But you, as the user, you know which button is which. And when you click on it, immediately your computer gives you login. So summarily, we've talked about the various Windows Hello logins and other signing options. Windows Hello is made of the fingerprint, the face recognition, and the PIN signing options, whereas the other signing options are security keys and picture password. That is it for the session. Now we're looking at remote services. Before we do remote services, I want us to, next session, please, you all should make sure that you have your computers with you. Have your computers ready because we are actually going to connect remotely to each of your computers. So we are going to, Mazule is going to connect to George's computer, George is going to connect to Nabila's computer, Nabila is going to connect to Mariama's computer and actually use their computer, not through Zoom, not the way we normally do it through Zoom. We are going to do that implementation without Zoom. So there are setups that you're going to make in your computer to make it accessible and for other people on the internet to, or other people that you're specified to be able to either connect through remote desktop or remote assistance, because there are basically two types of connections: remote desktop, remote assistance. There's also screen sharing, but it's just a minor service which is already under remote desktop and remote assistance. So that's what we're going to be doing during our catch-up session. We just have to decide which day that's going to be. I don't know if we should have it on Friday instead and shift what we have to do on Friday for the next weeks, or I don't really know how we should implement that. But I think it is an open topic. Please, you guys should try to cultivate the habit of discussing about these stuff in the group. When we ask the question or we expect you guys to decide on something, it is an inclusive topic, which means everybody's decision counts. We don't want to assume for you guys. So try to discuss on the topics that matter. I expect you all after this session to pick a date that we're going, two days that we're going to have catch-ups within the week, except for Friday and Sunday, so that we can be on time with the actual schedule that we have. So basically, I think we are done for the day. If anyone has a question, you can bring it up. If anyone has a question, sorry, you can bring the question up. Any question? What's ever used the picture password on their computer? Has anyone ever used the picture password? Mazule, you look like you have used the picture password. Have you?
No, sir. I've not used it.
Okay, but have you ever heard about it?
No, sir. I'm just hearing about it now.
Okay. I think you guys will have the opportunity to see it on my PC right now. Let me just take settings. But because I don't have the, please unmute yourself, Mazule. There's this noise there's this echo from your mic that is really, really hurting my ears. Okay. I'm into my computer settings. I'll click on system. When I click on system, I have the option to choose privacy and security. Then there is this Windows Hello. Nope, it's not there. It's under accounts. But Windows 11 is so complicated. Under settings, I'll go to accounts and then I take sign in options. There is something here that says pass keys. I'll just leave that for now. That's something for another day. So these are the various, okay. Unfortunately, the computer I worked on today had Windows, had picture sign in. I felt like it was mine. So never mind. These are the various Windows Hello options that I have. I don't have facial recognition. If I had a webcam, I would have facial recognition. A good webcam, because some computers have webcam, but you still don't have access to this Windows Hello because you don't have a TPM chip, the chip that manages all the security stuffs. So Windows Hello is basically managed by the TPM chip. I don't have a fingerprint scanner on my PC, so I don't have access to the fingerprint recognition either. I don't have access to, I have access to the pin because I can have a keyboard. And then the physical security key is like, if I click on this, I'll have options to sign into apps with physical security key. If I click on manage, I'll have the option to choose which security. Can you guys see the new screen that just popped up? Can you see the new screen that just popped up?
Yes, sir.
Yes. They say insert your security key into the USB port. If I just plug in my USB key right now, it is going to become a security key, so I can use that key to sign into Windows. I'll need to type a password. You can do it the same thing. You all can do the same thing on your computers. You have a USB key that whenever you plug on your computer, you'll be able to log in without typing the password. Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
Yeah, that's really, really, that's so cool. The picture password is even nicer. It's even nicer. You can get a very complex image and then just know one particular spot, which is your spot. Every time you need to log in, the Windows will just show you that image. You just click on one place. Let's say like this N here on sign in is, I don't know if you guys can see this mouse. So like, you guys cannot, can you see this? It feels like my mouse is stuck somewhere. So, but like this N on the sign in is the what you want to click on the picture. You simply click it and your Windows opens up. Those of you who have flash drive or USB keys, you can try the security key stuff. I think it's available on Windows 10. It's been a while I've not used Windows 10. Try with Windows 10. You should go to accounts, security, or sign in options. Use a security key and you can connect your security key, your key, to making sure that anytime you want to log into your computer, you will choose sign in with security key, and then Windows will automatically detect the key and open up for you. that being said, guys, that's all that I had to show you us today. If you have any questions, you don't hesitate to ask before we call this session a day. Any questions from anyone? Mariama, Josh, Nabila, Mazule?
No, sir, no question.
Mariama, what about you? Do you have any question? Every time you ask questions, your questions are brilliant. Please ask something. Can Mariama even hear me?
Okay, I said I was not at the beginning of the session, so I'm kind of lost.
All right. Do you want to watch the recording before asking your question, or you just want to ask any abstract question?
No. I don't want to go OT. So I'll like to watch the recording.
All right. As a matter of fact, this
I
recording
don't
was
to go,
done.
I don't want to go out of topic.
Yeah, this recording was done locally, so we'll have to move it out. It's not in the cloud, so you guys will not receive a link. You will receive the file itself. I will make sure that it's uploaded to YouTube with the appropriate dates allocated to them, so that you guys can be watching them from there. So, Nabila, do you have any questions?
On YouTube, you have to give us the link to YouTube now.
Yes, I'll upload it as a private video, so only you guys will have access. Only people within this class will have access.
Okay.
Yes, I just really need to emphasize, guys. I just really need to emphasize, please, that it's already the month end and the second installment is due. We are already expecting your second installments before as the new month begins. It's just everybody else who is not in order after this month end, unfortunately, will be sent out of the group, and will lose us. Will equally lose access to all the platform, all the resources that we use to carry out this training with. Those of you who have issues with your accounts, also get back to me so that we can figure them out. All right, so I'm done. We're done with the sharing. The session is called. You can call the session a day.